Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Premier Injuries Daily Roundup. Now, I'm speaking ahead of game week 27, and we have already heard from four managers on Thursday. But before I go into those, we have three European ties set for Thursday. So I'll touch upon those first. Now, I suspect by the time this video goes live, we will already have team news from West Ham, who play away at AEK Larnaca, and also Arsenal, who are in Portugal facing Sporting. But there's been a lot of questions with regards to both of those teams, so I thought it best to touch upon those first. And we'll kick off with Arsenal, and Mikel Arteta kept his cards very close to his chest when asked for a team news update in his pre-match press conference. Now, if you haven't seen the video from Jason McKenna, our YouTube short on Gabriel Jesus, I do recommend that you check that out. It is a great video from the one and own J Mac. Right. Now, questions coming in, obviously, after Gabriel Jesus was pictured on the training pitches this week. Now, he's only had one or two sessions with the first team squad, and ultimately FPL managers are wanting to know, will Gabriel Jesus be involved this weekend? I think ultimately what we need to know and what we mean to know is, not only will he be involved, but is Gabriel Jesus in a position to make a meaningful contribution, both in terms of his minutes and also in terms of his performance levels? And the simple and quick answer to that would be no. We're talking of the Brazilian striker has spent well over 3 months out on the sidelines after undergoing surgery for a MCL, medial collateral knee ligament injury. And like I say, it doesn't matter. That return to train doesn't necessarily facilitate a return to play and ultimately a return to performance. So the expectation is that, we're probably looking at a good few weeks, or even after the international break, certainly before we're seeing anything like the Gabriel Jesus that went to the World Cup. Now, I never like to categorically rule out a player from making the matchday squad. There are all sorts of influence and factors that could dictate that. And quite frankly, the injury situation as well could force Mikel Arteta's hands with regards to this. Like I say, we know that Eddie Nketiah is managing that ongoing ankle problem. Nothing too serious, but it did restrict him to a role from the bench in that double game week in both of those matches. And then he was absent from the squad against Bournemouth completely and rested for that. Shouldn't be too far away, but like I say, it is a consideration. Secondly, we also seen Leandro Trossard limp off in that game. Mikel Arteta referenced the fact that when he was tracking back, he had a problem with a groin and adductor issue. But again, post-match evaluations, assessments revealed that the problem wasn't too severe, so he cannot be ruled out of this game on Sunday. But should that be the case, and should Arsenal come under a little bit of pressure in terms of their results, then it wouldn't surprise me to see Gabriel Jesus back in that matchday squad. But like I say, is he 100% fit? Is he totally match sharp? Then no, he isn't. So really, it's going to be April time, pushing to the back end of the season before we're seeing those consistent levels of performances from the Brazilian. But certainly good news and good signs with regards to him being back with the group. For West Ham, we've seen Angelo Ogbonna limp off at the weekend. And like I say, if you missed the beginning of this podcast, he could be starting this evening. However, my own thoughts are that David Moyes may look to protect his centre-back. That was a little tweak of the knee ligament. Again, it was a medial MCL, medial collateral ligament strain there. Nothing too serious. It has only held him back from training sessions for 1 or 2. But he's fine. But like I say, it may not be risks. Elsewhere within that group, Maxwell Cornet had a run out for the under-21s. This goes back to a calf problem back in October that he suffered against Wolves. He's had setback after setback. He's spent a lot of time in France. He's recently returned. But again, we're talking about a player who has travelled with the group. Highly unlikely that he's going to start. So please, David Moyes, don't make me look like a fool. Again, we're probably looking for the back end of this season post international break before we're going to be, seeing anything like the Maxwell Cornet that convinced David Moyes to splash the cash on him. And Mikel Antonio, he's expected to return following that minor hamstring issue. But of course, Scamacca is another option. Danny Ings could be rested and protected against this weekend's matches. wings. Back to this weekend in game week 27. Who have we heard from? Let's kick off with Sean Dyche. And of course, the burning question, will Dominic Calvert-Lewin be available this weekend for the Toffees? Well, in answer to that, we don't really know. What we know is Calvert-Lewin is training with the team, but again, it's very early days, and it's always about the wider considerations with the striker, not just the here and now and getting over this latest injury setback, but it's about all of that accumulation of problems that date back over the last 18 months. So not just about getting Dominic Calvert-Lewin back for game week 27. It's about getting him back and making sure that he can see out the remainder of the season. This stop-start situation that he's been managing for well over a year now. They're trying to address that, get the bottom of it. They're looking at aspects of his life, his home life, his personal life, his nutrition, his sleep, dietary, everything that can maybe try to pinpoint why he keeps suffering those setbacks. So he could potentially be involved in the matchday squad, but again, is he threatening at the start? Highly unlikely. I do expect Amari Gray to probably lead that Toffees line. He got a goal on his return to the squad. First start under the new boss, and Sean Dyche even referenced the fact that he was impressed with his performance elsewhere within the Everton group. Michaelenko, he missed out at the City Ground because of illness. He is back on the training pitches. They're just assessing his strength, but he could be forced and come back in, probably at the expense of maybe Ben Godfrey. Michael Keane is also competing with Connor Cody with regards to a potential start. A lot of questions regarding Nathan Patterson. He's still getting up to match sharpness. He has had another game for the under-21, so he's still not quite there yet, but really positive signs that he is improving. Now, we go to Nottingham Forest, Everton's opponents last weekend, and we heard from Steve Cooper. Forest currently have 8 players sidelined. Now, it doesn't really look, or realistically look, as if any of those players will be back. Chike Kouyaté is probably the closest of those. He was been sidelined since picking up that injury in Qatar, had surgery on his hamstring in January. So he is nearing a turn. He has been back on the training pitches. However, the bad weather Wednesday and Thursday in particular with the snow has disrupted a little bit of that. And Steve Cooper said he wasn't prepared to risk him out on the training pitches just in case there were any issues due to that snow. So like I say, shouldn't be too far away, but I suspect game week 27 will be too soon for him. Leeds United, and we'll stick with the striking department, and that's Patrick Bamford. Now, Javi Gracia was asked about Leeds and their blunt attack of late, but he said all being well, if they come through training, then he does expect those attacking options to be bolstered this weekend. Although, again, in typical Gracia fashion, he wasn't willing to give too much away. What he did say last week, that Patrick Bamford should be ready for this game. So, in theory, it'll be between him and Georginio Ruta vying for that striking spot. Although Ruta, he has said, plays better as a second striker. So if he was to implement that, then it would require a change or a tweak from his recent formations of a 4-2-3-1 to maybe a 4-4-2, or a more familiar what he had done past with Watford as a 4-2-2-2. Elsewhere up front, there was also questions asked about Luis Sinisterra and Rodrigo. Now, initial time frame for Rodrigo, which was an ankle ligament problem, was between 6 to 8 weeks. Like I see, he has been on the training pitches. If he was to return this weekend, then that would relate to that best case scenario, bang on 6-week schedule. Sinisterra, hamstring, that's coming off the back of that foot Liz Frank problem, picked up the hamstring problem against Manchester United. That was expected to be short term, so the fact that he's spent so long out with regards to that injury has been a little bit surprising. So he is one that I would expect to be pushing to be included in that match day squad. And finally, Leicester City, we have heard from Brendan Rodgers, a little bit of a surprise coming from the camp to say that Harvey Barnes is expected to recover. Rodgers is hopeful that the winger will be back. Looked at quite nasty ankle sprain, slight damage to that ligament in a challenge with James Ward-Prowse. He was non-weight bearing post-match, but thankfully, again, an MRI scan revealed that the extent of the problem isn't too severe. So he has responded really, really well to treatment, and he could be back in that Foxes lineup. Elsewhere, Johnny Evans, he's pushing to be included in the match day squad after being involved in a full week of training with the group. But again, he's not somebody that I expect to be pushing for a start following back-to-back calf and thigh issues. So that's it for now. Myself and Jason will be going live around about 2:15 with our On the Whistle deadline report, team news, injury updates, and loads of stats. And yeah, we'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. So please join us. Keep your eyes and ears peeled. You can always check out premierinjuries.com or myself or Jason via our Twitter handles. You know the score. Speak to you all soon. Have a good one.